So recently I bought a Commodore 1081 CRT monitor off of eBay for a really good price. Initially I was searching for a good deal on a Commodore 1702 monitor to perfectly go with my Commodore 64. However, with it being a highly sought after monitor in the retro tech scene, known for its great picture quality comparable to professional video monitors or PVMs, or at least as I've heard, I had no luck finding one. But during my search, I stumbled upon the Commodore 1081. Apart from the name, it's otherwise almost exactly the same as the Commodore 1084 and later 1084S monitors, both also highly regarded monitors. So seeing that it was a Commodore monitor in good shape, sporting an Amiga badge at the front, and that I plan to pick up and restore an Amiga 500 in the near future, I decided to pick it up. Opening the box, we see the seller did a fantastic job packing the 1081 monitor, especially given the fragile nature of shipping large monitors like this from one side of the country to another. It was a bit tedious, but I'm more grateful that it was well packed than the time it took to get it out of the box. After some time, it was finally free from its styrofoam and cardboard packaging. Oh, never mind, this is packed real tight. So taking a moment to pull out most of the shredded cardboard, the monitor is now free from its packaging.
There we go. Oh. Let's get that out of the way.
The screen was protected with a thick sheet of cardboard taped to the monitor, and with a sigh of relief, the monitor was in good condition. Oh, there's packaging everywhere now. That's better. The seller did mention that there was a chipped off piece of plastic on one of the side vents, and the listing's photos showed deep cuts on the front bezel, as well as a worn out print label on the monitor's power button, so definitely some things to try to fix. With the monitor out of the box and my fire extinguisher on standby, the monitor was ready to test. But after some time in transit, does it still work? Well, I was jolted with surprise when after plugging the monitor into power, the monitor powered on instantly. While showing that the monitor indeed survived shipping, it showed a power issue of some sort, and it didn't take long to realize what happened. After plugging it into power, despite it turning on, I couldn't turn it off. The only way of doing so was by unplugging it. A common issue with these monitors, along with the 1084 and 1084S, is that the power switches inside are prone to breaking, either resulting in the power button being jammed in the on or off position. In my case, the monitor was stuck in the on position. I contacted the seller to see if that was an issue that wasn't mentioned, but the seller did tell me that the power button was working perfectly fine before shipping. So most likely, along the way during transit, the power button got jammed. The lack of a working power button would have been a non-issue, however for longevity's sake, I wanted to fix this. But in turn, meaning that I'd have to disassemble the monitor in order to fix it. But on the bright side, it allowed me to check the overall state of the internal components inside, most especially the old capacitors, with their tendency to leak after decades of use if not dealt with, causing corrosion and other sorts of damage inside. But before we get into the restoration, a fair warning to anybody thinking about working on old CRT monitors like this one. Do not disassemble and try to work on them without learning and understanding the proper precautions needed to safely discharge the dangerous voltages inside a CRT monitor before repairing them, or you will die. Or you'll get a nasty zap. Regardless, please don't take that chance. For this reason, this video is not a tutorial, and therefore I won't be showing the process of safely discharging the CRT monitor. Seriously, if you're going to work on CRT monitors, stop what you're doing, learn and understand how to safely work on them through the various resources out there. These old monitors can carry dangerous voltages that can cause serious injury or worse, kill you if you're not careful and don't follow proper precautions. The only reason I'm doing this is because of my experience working on various CRT monitors, all-in-one computers, and CRT TVs in the past. So I understand how to safely discharge and work on CRT monitors. Though I'd like to emphasize that I'm not an expert on working on these and don't claim to be one. So with that out of the way, let's get started. With a towel over my workbench, I laid the monitor down and removed the monitor's back case. After discharging the CRT, I gave the monitor a quick dusting with a can of air spray, just to remove some loose dust. I also cleaned the monitor's casing with some Windex and paper towels, albeit off camera because I didn't have a proper tripod at the time to film most of the cleaning process. I also used a Q-tip and some more Windex to clean off some scuffs at the top of the monitor, but to varying levels of success. The power switch and the monitor's power supply is all part of one PCB inside the monitor, so with the cables disconnected, I removed the power module out of the monitor to investigate the power switch. Initially, I thought it was just a simple case of dust getting into the power switch and in turn jamming it. But nope, it's definitely a mechanical issue. I wanted to see if I could somehow fix the jam power switch, but with it being a very meticulous task due to the size of the components inside the switch, I decided it was better to just order a new power switch instead. For the most part, the monitor looked good. But apart from the broken power switch, I wanted to address the cosmetic issues this 1081 monitor had. So whilst I waited for the new power switch to arrive, I focused on that. I saw a restoration video done by IIDIY where they restored chipped paint on a Commodore 1702 monitor using a mixture of paints and an airbrush. But given I currently don't have access to an airbrush, I'll have to go with using acrylic paints and some paintbrushes. This part of the restoration is now the joy of painting! Albeit minus Bob Ross, may he rest in peace. So with mixing some acrylic paints together, through trial and error, I was finally able to color match my paint to the front bezel of the monitor. And while lacking a semi-glossy coat to finish the rest of the front bezel, the result came out a lot better than expected. Though if you look closely, it's still slightly off. But honestly, it's better than nothing. Now I was on to treating the worn out power button the same way. Originally my plan was to color match and paint over the whole front face of the button and leave the old printing behind. However, I felt like it'd be a disservice to the monitor's original look. So I looked into picking up a label maker and bought a Brother PT D610BT label maker off of eBay, along with a 24mm clear label cartridge for a good price. Using Affinity, I designed a new version of the original button label, and when it all arrived, I printed it out and stuck the new label onto the button. While now giving the button a slightly darker and more glossy look, it ended up working better than I expected. Not perfect, but hey, I say, a solid DIY fix. Now with the paint job and power button label sorted, the next thing I wanted to tackle was the door flap. Initially, the door flap wasn't part of the monitor's listing, but after the seller found the original door flap, they ended up including it with the monitor, which I was extremely thankful for, because to me, it wouldn't have been complete without it. The problem I faced, however, was that the plastic hinges had broken off on both sides, so I needed to sort out a solution. Using a Dremel and hand file off camera, the old hinges were cut off as there was no way to salvage them. They would be replaced with new 3D printed hinges that'd be glued onto the door flap. The initial print job wasn't perfect, and ended up being misaligned with the monitor, causing it to jam. So after snapping them off, making some adjustments on the model in Blender, and reprinting them, I glued the new hinges back onto the door flap, installed the door flap into the monitor, and laid the monitor face down for a day for the glue to dry. A day later, the new door flap was in place and working like new. I couldn't color match the hinges to the door flap filament wise, but seeing it'll only be seen from the inside, I didn't mind the color difference in the end. A week later, the new replacement power switch arrived, and it was now time to desolder the old switch and its wires off of the PCB, in order to solder it to the new power switch. The new switch's legs were different to the original, meaning it was going to be a challenge to solder the wires onto the new switch, with how much smaller they were. But after some wrangling, I eventually got it all situated. I did some tests with a multimeter to make sure continuity was all good with the new switch, and sure enough, it was all good. Now it was time to reinstall the power module back into the monitor and reconnect everything. It took a little bit, as it initially seemed like the new power switch wasn't fitting back into the power button, but eventually I got it back into place. I used this time to carefully inspect the capacitors inside the monitor, and while they all looked clean with no signs of leaks or damage, I still plan on doing a full recap of the monitor in the near future. So I'll be ordering new high quality capacitors to replace the old ones in order to future-proof the monitor. With the CRT's anode cap back in place, I reassembled the monitor. So it was finally time to test the monitor to make sure everything was okay. And after plugging it in, it was all good. I wanted to celebrate this successful restoration with some Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1, displayed using SCART, as opposed to the standard AV composite video output. Since my PAL region PS1 has been mod shipped, and my copy of the game is an NTSC or North American copy, NTSC games are displayed in black and white with PAL composite video. While my 1081 monitor only outputs composite in PAL color only, SCART video on the 1081 is PAL and NTSC compatible. But even with that knowledge, I wasn't prepared for how good SCART is picture quality wise.
I have to adjust. Whoa! Oh, that is sharp! Wow, that's crazy. I've never seen SCART video before. Like, this is crisp. Oh man. Oh my god, that's crisp. Okay, I need to get a controller.
This was my first time seeing SCART video, as prior to this, I'd only ever used CRT monitors with composite video, only ever hearing people talking about SCART with high praise. But now, seeing it for myself, with SCART's sharper and cleaner image than composite video, I can now see why people seek out CRTs with SCART video compatibility. Overall, I'm really happy with how this restoration came out. Apart from the chipped plastic on the side, it practically looks and feels like a new Commodore 1081 monitor. And even with using a newer Commodore monitor with my C64, it works really well together. I still aim to get a 1702 monitor in the near future, but for now, an Amiga is needed to complete this restoration. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like, or dislike if you didn't. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, then consider subscribing to the channel, and comment your thoughts down below on what you'd like to see next. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you for watching everyone, and as always, stay safe and take care.